Alright, hello and welcome to your Lab 9. So this one's going to be due in 2 weeks because of the midterm, and it'll be all about recursion. So you're going to be writing 3 recursive functions today, after you get all the starter code. Everything that you write will be in recursivfuncs.cpp. Okay, I've made all the tests for you. So let's do this. Let me show you recursivfuncs.h. This is the header file. This is what the user will use. This is what the tester will use. So you're going to be writing 3 functions that the user gets to see, and they're all deep down going to be recursive. So is palindrome will take a string and tell you whether or not, true or false, if it was a palindrome. Sum digits will sum the digits of a number, and I'll show you an example. Takes an int, returns an int, number of digits. Not the number of digits, sorry, but the sum of the digits. And then a string length function that's going to do the same thing as strlen in the C string library, but we're going to make a recursive version of a function that calculates, given a C string, the length of that string. So that's the .h file. Let's look at the .cpp file for the tests. So we have a bunch of things saying that, oh yes, A is a palindrome, race car is a palindrome, daffodil is not a palindrome. And here's what it means to sum digits. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. That's what it means to sum digits. And then string length. This is a string length 4. Apparently this has 13, 1, and 0. Those are the tests that will be run for you. So all your work is in this file, this recursivfuncs.cpp file. And let me show you what you're doing. So the first thing is a palindrome. So a palindrome is just any string. I showed you some examples. It's any string that reads the same forwards as it does backwards. Okay, so ABBA, AA, and race car, because you spell it backwards, R-A-C-E-C-A-R, is the same as it is forwards. Those are palindromes. But for this lab, we're going to make it a bit fancier. We're going to also disregard spaces and capitals. Okay, so you'll have to remove those before you check palindromality, if that's a word. So, for example, this, with a bunch of spaces in between and some capitals, is still a palindrome. It's ABA deep down. Okay? And then same with this, race car. Even though there's some capitals and a space, it's still a palindrome. Okay? So you're going to have to pre-process your strings a little bit. And that's what the first function is for. So in this palindrome subsection, you're going to implement 2 functions, in fact. The first one that you're going to implement is called a helper function. It's the is palindrome that the user uses. And what it's going to do is you're going to clean up the string. So if you're given race car with a bunch of spaces and capitals, or AA with a bunch of spaces and capitals, you're going to need to simplify that first, somehow, to a nice looking string that you'll then give to this recursive function. Okay, so you're going to write the is palindrome recursive function recursively. It's going to take a very nice string that you've pre-processed and return true or false. So it's like this helper function is going to eventually call this function and return its result. Okay, that's how it's going to check palindrome-ness. And because I'm asking you to write all your functions except for that first helper function recursively, you're going to have to find a smaller palindrome checking problem inside of your original problem. So if you're given race car, can you find the smaller palindrome? This is what it means for it to be a palindrome. Can you find a smaller one? There will be 2 base cases. If you try enough examples, you'll notice that that is necessary. And as a hint there, just ask yourself the question, which strings do I immediately know the answer to, whether or not they're a palindrome? Which don't have any palindromes inside of them? When can I stop checking? Okay? And every file is going to be written in recursivfuncs.cpp, so you'll just use this whole thing to compile every time. It's the same file. Okay? So the next part is summing digits. So you're going to write a function that recursively sums the digits of a number. So here's a sum digits 1, 2, 3. It needs to eventually return 6, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. And here's a hint for the recursive case. Like, here's your problem on 1, 2, 3, 4. The answer is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. But, oh, do you see the subproblem? You see how you might use that to build up the final answer? And I think you can come up with a good base case as well. So how do you turn this one into that smaller one? That'll eventually get you almost to the solution. And then finally, the C string length function. So down here, you're going to get a C string, like ASDF, and you need to return an int, which is the length of that string, and you're going to do it recursively. You're required to do it recursively. Okay, you'll return 4 for that example, and here is an idea of how you might do this. So you're going to take your original problem, like I'm trying to find the length of hello, it's supposed to be 5. Can you find a smaller length of string problem inside of this one? And if you remember the example from class, you might be able to break it down into this format, in this green format, and suddenly you have a smaller string, and that's a recursive solution. You can just assume that that's going to work as normal, and then make sure that you consider the original string, whatever made it different. Okay? There's an extra character there. So once you get all these things working, that is, the tests passing. You don't have to write any of your own. I've made them all. Get all these tests to pass, or as many as you can before the deadline, and then just submit as usual. So made a few tests, 10 in total, I guess, are the ones that exist in this file. And so for each test, you're going to get 2 points and 20 total. Yeah, please yell at me if you have any questions. Just keep in mind that you have to do everything recursively. Okay? Except for that one helper function. Good luck, and I will see you next time.